yeah, I haven't even been playing that much. I've been kind of out of it, but always thinking through some of these strategic frameworks and the social aspect of the game of Catan. So that's what this class is really diving into. We're diving into detecting cognitive biases in Catan. And so we can go ahead and get started on what that even is. Let me jump in to the second slide. So what are cognitive biases? Well, for those of you who remember my last class, which focused on game theory, and the rational game optimal decision making, how to counter extortion that way, throw that out the window. This class is the exact opposite. This is instead whenever you're playing the game and you have players that deviate from this rational judgment, they deviate from these game optimal decisions because of certain influences in their mind, certain cognitive processes that go on that maybe sway you to acting in a way that's not best for your game. So that's what we're kind of looking at, what those are, some examples, and then how to, avoid them, or in other cases, exploit them. So yeah, so this is just basically another way of saying that, like, mental shortcuts that you'll take during games to make you like more efficient in your decision making, because Catan's a very timed game. You got however much time, you got to be quick. But at that, you're taking away from making optimal decisions. So there's going to be more errors, and you're going to stray away from making what decisions put you in the best spot to win the game. So in other words, a lot of times you'll see cognitive biases like these cause you to lose more games than you really should. All right, so we're going to be touching on 4 different biases today. Right here. First one is the winner's curse. Second, the framing effect. Third, the sunk cost fallacy. And fourth, the gambler's fallacy. So, honestly, these are all great. It could be like 3 to 4 videos in of itself, but we're going to use this session to touch on it like at a high level, and we can use it as like spurring a discussion with you all. So if you have any questions or any comments on these types of fallacies and curses and effects, that's the purpose of this. Once you have them and you're able to recognize them, you'll start seeing more and more patterns of these occurring in every single one of your games. Then I would love to hear just different instances and examples of this happening and how you recognized it, how you avoided it, exploited it, things like that. Which of these, yeah. So what are they? What are their impact in real life, and also specifically within Catan? When do they occur? How do we avoid it? How can we also exploit it? Those are like the 3 basic categories for each one of these that we're going to go on. All right, first off, the winner's curse, which is my personal favorite. I see this all the time. So the winner's curse is basically the tendency for negotiators to settle too quickly on an item, and then that causes you to be a little bit uncomfortable that this negotiation was too easy. So in other words, I'm saying, hey, I want a sheet for a wheat. Someone goes, oh yeah, absolutely. Make the trade happen. Should be happy. You got what you wanted, the sheet for the wheat. You're good to go. But wow, that happened way too easy. There is no back and forth. What's going on? Did I miss something? Did I just trade him something amazing? Now I don't feel so good even though I got what I wanted. And I'm wondering, in another world, other timeline, could I have gotten a better deal? Could I have gotten more out of it? And now I'm just second guessing myself completely. And that'll influence how I'm going about trading in the future for the rest of the game. And that could be often in a very negative way. Now I'm not going to take any of these great trades, even though they really are exactly what I want. And now I'm starting to push back and nothing gets done, So, what is an example of this? If we go look at the 2021 US National Championship game, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, a very common game, we can take a look at an interaction between Caleb and Bo. All right.
But it's helping him get there. I know. But
around. Does anyone need sheep? Don't need sheep.
Not right now. I just want a lot of cards,
Do you have wheat for trade?
No.
Give you 2 sheep for wheat.
I just have a whole handful of sheep then.
You want?
The sheep aren't super helpful.
They will be if I have like other cards, more other cards.
I don't know what I'd do with them.
I don't know. It's 4-1 it for something good.
I'd need 3.
3 sheep?
Wow. Didn't expect the trade.
Is that 3?
3 for 1 wheat is what you're looking for?
Yeah.
What are you gonna build?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I just need a.
He's not obligated to tell you.
Yeah. Just need wheat because you got like robbed. And like I have too many cards in my hand. That's why.
Suspicious.
I think you're too good of a player to play like that.
Oh, it's round.
Oh.
To you.
All right. So whole point is that Caleb and Bo are trying to trade. Bo won't tell him what he's using it for, being really secretive, a little sneaky. Now later in the game, you'll see this.
Before getting longest road.
Yes, absolutely.
Or that would be the way I would play it.
Wheat for sheep.
Here.
You want to double?
No.
You change your mind.
Well, you just said wheat for sheep.
And
to
we
comment on
forget.
how active Bo is in every single turn.
Yes.
Regardless of whether it's his turn, he's not only talking about
Another
trading,
pearl.
but
Another sheep.
We'll keep it at that. But boom, perfect example of the winner's curse right there. Caleb wants wheat for sheep. Bo's like, yes, immediately. And then Caleb's like, oh man, that was quick. You really want that? Now I'm second guessing everything. Yeah, I'm probably giving you something too good. Here we go. And so whenever someone immediately accepts that initial offer like that, there's often like a psychological bias that takes place. You know, this is a winner's curse. And the person who has their offer accepted right away, as we said, like Caleb, is feeling pretty unhappy and weary about making that trade happen. They feel like they can make a better deal now. However, you can't really just say 1-to-1 and then get more. You can't like backtrack, you know? So he really went out of order and ended up not having a trade happen at all. So Caleb in this instance is thinking pretty much 2 things here. It's like shit, wow, I really should have started by offering like 1 wheat for 3 sheep, you know? And then that way you can log roll and go back and forth, get down to 1 for 1, 1 for 2, and maybe that trade 1 wheat for 2 sheep does happen, because I do think it's beneficial for both parties. And the second thing is like Caleb's thinking, why does Bo want this? Is he going to use it for his city? What is he doing? Is he going to mess up my game even more? And this is mainly because of how Bo came across in the interaction before, where he's being a little sneaky and would withhold some information from Caleb. So yeah, I think Bo could have very easily actually gotten this 1-for-1 deal since Caleb started there, just by instead not jumping the gun with the yes, throwing the card, but maybe asking more questions like, hey Caleb, what does this do for you? If it helps you get to your 6 wood so you can start fighting for road, maybe, yeah, I'm down to help you. Doesn't really help me as much, even though I just asked for it. Things have changed. It's your turn. Stuff like that. Some sort of conversation back and forth to make it seem like Bo doesn't desperately want this, but it's also him helping Caleb, and it's a beneficial deal. Because he was so like forthright and wanting it right away, you know, that's why it didn't happen. Caleb really just got turned off by that. So yeah, how to avoid from the seller's side anchoring, as we mentioned with Caleb, starting out by saying 1 wheat for 3 sheep. But pie, maybe it goes down to 2, whatever deal you want. How to avoid from the buyer with Bo, as we just mentioned, the log rolling, the back and forth. Now, the one thing you want to make sure, though, is that you're not being too slow with that and someone else snags the trade. So it's really striking that balance. And then lastly, next level strategy, right, is how to exploit this. So let's say I'm on the table too, and Caleb says that, and I don't even have any sheep to give him. I'm still going to say something. I'm going to say, whoa, man, if I had some sheep, I would absolutely give you that. That's an insane deal. That's so cheap. Or something like that. Still being a part of the conversation, because now Caleb's second guessing, oh man, that first offer, that was really cheap, you're right. And it'll cause like some sort of a chilling effect between all the other parties. So, you know, as much as you can make other people not trade with each other and you be a part of more of these trades, the better your odds are going to be winning the game. All right, next, the framing effect. So framing effect is when basically the whole idea that my decisions, my responses, my reactions can all be different based off of how someone else is framing their question or information that they're presenting. right? So this could apply in Catan to trades, agreements to not like take different settlements, settle somewhere else, and even extortions, primarily extortions, I would say. So we're going to a Delighted video. I'm sure you guys all know Delighted. I don't have to tell you to subscribe, but you should.
Card, but I think, yeah. I don't want to scam you.
Yep. All good.
Watch this
Okay,
interaction
this is good because I need more D card competition
with
here.
Squash and Road Dog coming up here.
Okay. 8, that's good. Okay, now I don't actually need the wheats that much. Let's see if he was willing to talk or not. I'm willing to make a deal here.
We let Dylan win my other game yesterday. I'm cool.
Yeah. Do you want to trade your brick and I won't block you, Ro?
For what? Yeah, do it.
I'm willing to do the same.
So that is basically a framing of extortion. You see it pretty commonly, where people say it a pretty friendly way, like, if you can trade me this, I won't block you. Rather than saying, I'm going to block you unless you trade me this. So that's two different ways of framing how to get the card that you want in a beneficial agreement like this where Road Dog isn't getting blocked. That's something that you want to make sure you're always doing and keep in mind. And so it's like second nature for a lot of the high level players now. But I mean, this can also spread to just like trading or anything else. So focusing more on how does this trade help you? And let's get there so you can help achieve your goal rather than how is this trade helping me? How do we get there? That's just something you really want to start practicing a bit more. It really puts the person you're trying to trade with in the driver's seat, even when it's your own turn. All right, moving on to the sunk cost fallacy, right? Oftentimes you'll see a lot of people start working on this game plan, start building these roads or buying all these development cards, and they're really invested in it. But now things change. It's no longer like the right move. This is your way of getting to 10 victory points is no longer building these roads or buying these development cards. You really need to adapt and change. But because you have wasted so much materials already focused in on this win condition, that you just keep going and you don't stop and you don't try to change. That's called the sunk cost fallacy, right? And a lot of times it goes hand in hand with just having an ego and being like, oh, I wasn't wrong. I'll prove you all wrong. I'll just keep going for it and I'll show you. When in reality, every single roll you should be readapting your strategy. If you started buying development cards, but someone else already has like 5 knights down and you're trying to get army, like you really need to pivot and try something else, either road or just building up. Same thing goes for the road clowns in these games. You keep building the roads, but this guy, he needs 2 more and he locks it. Why are you even going for it anymore? Adapt. Stop wasting your stuff on it. But some people are so set on it, it'll cause them to just lose outright and not balance the table. One example of this, if we go back in time to a long, long time ago, Catan Championship, number 13 premium tournament. It's my first championship I ever made for Catan Champs. And, it didn't go that well. I lost. But there's a lot of lessons learned. This, I think, was like over 2.5 years ago now, so don't judge me. But some background here, if you can see, hopefully it's not too small. But Red was first pick. He goes 8-5-10, obviously, goated position. It's so good. I'm in second. I go 6-9-2. The reason I didn't point down was I was afraid 6-3 of being an out. I was afraid of like even some sort of 6-3 or 9-4-3 and all those free roads down there, like really messing me up. And then also I had the game plan of getting onto the 5 wheat. And so 6-9-2, there's a lot of free roads so I can get a head start, get the 5 wheat, and then I'm good. Now I have made shift into a 6-5-9 or wheat sheep, like really good. However, I didn't expect black and blue in 3rd and 4th position to place like this. So basically what happened was they left the 6-4-3, which is the wood and the sheep, and then the 9-4-3, the wheat and the sheep, for 7th and 8th position, right? So either I'm giving red his 8-5-10 with the 6-4-3 and the wood port, all resources, no one contesting, like he's at all the north up there, or I'm giving him double wheat, double sheep, getting onto double ore with 3-4-1. Like it's just lose-lose. So I think nowadays I'd never let that happen. I'd always like be in the ear of making sure that those aren't the options for red because it's just crazy. And then I ultimately take the 6-4-3. I think it's a little bit better for the board. looking at it, I don't even know. It's pretty ugly either way. But I still am like, get on the 5 wheat and I'm good to go. But look at the board. You know, I get on the 5 wheat and red gets on the 6-3. How do I win? Red has better ore, better wheat, better sheep, and I have better wood with no port. So I don't understand how I would ever win that game. That's a terrible plan. But because I had already invested so much time and energy into thinking this out, and I was so frustrated, I started going for it anyway, which is just a huge mistake. It's like you got to transform your setup somewhere else. Like I would probably go 8 or port, or I would go try to get another road down and take the 6-3 from him, which is probably the best move actually. That probably balances the board. But what makes matters even worse is black goes crazy. I think 10s went insane. And he just starts building all these roads. So now I don't even get the 5 wheat. But I still am like, all right, whatever. I've already built this road. Let me just settle on the sheep port and just hope the 9s go crazy. But it's just me just not knowing what I'm doing, not adapting my game plan and just sticking with what I already started instead of saying, nah, that was a bad decision. It didn't work out. Let's pivot somewhere else. So that was me having too big of an ego to really change. But yeah, another example of this, a sunk cost, was in this game. I'm always like, oh, red's easily the clear winner. Like he's got the best setup for sure. And I keep praying we gotta block that 8 or, and then things change a lot of turns later, you know, and maybe red's not the front runner anymore. It's black or someone else, and you roll a 7 or you play a knight and you're still going to be blocking red just because you put so much effort into preaching this needs to be the blocked that you got to like put some support behind your words. And that's another form of the sunk cost fallacy where you're just like mentally stuck on something instead of taking a step back and adapting your game plan. So yeah, I did lose that game pretty bad and I've never won since. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, reassess your path to victory every single roll. Things do change, and it's okay to change your game plan. All right, the gambler's fallacy, the last one here. So this is the belief that the outcome or the probability of a random event is influenced by previous outcomes, even when they shouldn't be. So this is basically saying the roll of the dice, right? Let's say there's 5 10s in a row. There's 2 common thoughts here. Either 1, holy shit, this 10 is on fire. We gotta block it. It's gonna keep rolling. It's amazing. Or 2, wow, 10 outrolled big time. It's way past due. It's not gonna roll again. No need to block it. So 2 completely opposite ways of thinking, both completely irrational. The 10 is always gonna be 8.3% chance of rolling. That's just a given. Like the fact that it's rolled so much in the past does not influence what it is now. And so often, me included all the time, am trying to base my block off of that. Like, oh man, it's already hot. Chances are a 5 hasn't rolled in forever. Let's block the 5. It's bound to roll. No, same odds every single time. And a lot of that is just, it's hard to shake the feeling that there's like a pattern in these numbers, right? There's really isn't just a pattern. And we're like, oh, if we just look harder and there's a science and we can beat the system, we'll figure it out. But really, it's not a science. It's the same percentage every single time. It's always going to be the same percentage every single roll. That's just how it is. And I'm going to pick on Nikki here. I don't know if she's in the chat or not, but I did find this video earlier I thought was hilarious. Perfect example of what I just said.
Okay, bunch of extra wood on the board.
I got you for a wheat.
I think the 6 is standard.
Oh my gosh, and I get jacked for wheat.
Spot.
Well, as long as wood gives you its wheat, right?
This is such a bad position. This is a bad position.
Otherwise, I tried to.
You
Otherwise,
got
it's a 10 brick.
10
No,
brick.
the
You're on the
6.
10 brick.
Yeah.
No, you're not. No,
I mean,
you're
it
not.
hasn't rolled yet, so the likelihood of it rolling is.
I'm gonna roll now.
Let me see what people.
I mean, it hasn't rolled yet, so the likelihood of it rolling is higher now, right? But that's technically, it's not true because they're independent, you know? It's not like that Monty Hall problem. If you do my puzzles, you get it. So isn't it fair to the tone won't roll as much going forward? So, Peter, that's true. But given on an independent roll, it's always just going to be the same percentage. That's like something, that's a way of saying like, if you're not taking it from like this next roll is going to be a 10, then maybe you can look at the law of averages, right? You can say like on average, I can expect to get this much wood in the entire game because of the law of averages. That makes more sense to me. But saying the 10 isn't going to roll on this next roll because it just rolled 5 times, that's just an irrational way of looking at it because it's still just going to be 8% every time. They're all independent. What else I got? All right, yeah, so that's all 4. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Peter, that was a great question. But yeah, this is a very quick one. I wanted a high-level touch on all of these fallacies and biases so you can start recognizing them, and then I'm sure I'm going to see more and more examples of these in every game. My favorite, of course, is a winner's curse, and that's what I'm practicing like now. It's like, I mean, my secret, I'll never really accept like the first deal. I'll always do some sort of banter back and forth because I've noticed that whenever you immediately say yes, that actually leads to less often the deal going through, right? So it's striking the balance between, yes, I want to make this work with you, and the chilling effect of it, like, oh no, forget it, impasse, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen. Which is really interesting to me. And so that social dynamic of the game is something I'm looking to perfect a little bit better. The 2 only rolls when it's meant to roll. That's a good point. 2, that's insane. So that's why I always say settle on the 9-10 too, because that thing is wicked, man. Whenever you want it to, it'll roll. At least for me. You'd love it if the 10 gets blocked instead of the 6. Yeah, so if you want to exploit that fallacy, basically say, yeah, you are completely right, Nikki. That 10 hasn't rolled, it's going to roll, and it's going to be really impactful. I think that's the one where everyone's starving, everyone wants to roll and is praying rolls. You should probably block that instead. I think ultimately she got like a deal with so much wood, though. So she didn't want to block so much wood who was on the 10 brick. So honestly, in order for that not to happen, you'd have to give up to some sort of an extortion instead. And that would be by using game theory, which is my last class, completely different. Use game theory to avoid being extorted. Yeah, so I will also give a spiel really quickly here about Catan Championship. It's a Discord that I help run here. We have classes like this one you saw. Ush Puppy and Griffin just gave an awesome one before that. Shin gave one. All of these VODs are going to be uploaded to the Catan Championship YouTube channel, which is up and running now and about to be a lot more active as these semifinals have been finished. They're all going to be posted there really soon, so I definitely recommend checking it out. But apart from that, we host monthly leagues, so you can play whenever you want, people across the world. Benefits are that you're getting a lot less of those really toxic players that you might find in some of the ranked matches. You know, we help able to moderate it since it's a smaller pool of players. And you'll also like be able to do more voice chat games. So you'll actually have a sense of community and you'll start playing familiar faces and be able to bounce ideas off of these high level players and just become a lot better of a player if that's what you want. There's also just a lot of fun playing with some of these people because they don't, turn into a bot midway through and leave. So we had that for base, we had that for Cities and Knights. Come join. It's just your best streak of games. So after you play 15 games in the base league, your score can always only go up. So you don't have that sense of like an elo, like, oh man, I just lost and I just wasted like 2 hours, all my progress in 2 hours. Never that. It's always just keep playing, you can keep improving. And I found that's more, it makes me want to play more and more, right? And apart from that, last thing is probably like every 3 months now, we're having some sort of big event now. And that's basically going to be our mantra going forward. So we had a Tournament of Champions in April where we got all of our winners and they put them together in this big tournament that we live streamed. And now we're doing a 1v1 World Cup. So everyone can play 1v1. It's in different pools. So you make it out of your pool and you join the bigger playoff tournament. And then it's like sudden death up to the top. The winner gets some great prizes, some merch for champs that we have out now. And so next we might have the Cities and Knights tournament champion. After that, some other big events that are purely for entertainment outside of the league. So if the league's not your thing, you do rank games or something else, that's totally fine. Join for the sense of community, some of these bigger events, and hopefully you'll learn and just make some cool friends, you know? Didn't you talk about cognitive bias when it comes to different metas in Catan? What's scarier, the guy with cities up, the guy with dev cards down, or the road player? I think it always depends, Griffin. So that's a great question. I'll take it just piece by piece. The guy that cities up purely depends because I really enjoy trading ore and wheat away to this player who has the worst city spot, and he gets a city up. And now people are like, holy shit, he's got a city. And they'll start overblocking him, even though he needs that city to really compete. So yeah, that's something that depends. You know, if someone has like the best city quality and they have a city up, then they're probably always going to be the block. So they're probably like the scariest. Dev cards. I'm mostly scared of dev cards when they come in bunches. So that's when I have like the most lack of information. If they're just buying one, like next turn I can probably see it's probably one of these few things and narrow it down, narrow it down. When it's multiple, it could be a whole bunch of different things. Like they're not playing this night because they're thinking of, like before they roll, because they might be using this Monopoly or wanting to use Monopoly or something like that. There's just so much more unknown that I get scared. So if they come in bunches, I'm terrified. I'll probably block them. And then road player. So I'm not the best road player. Usually I think that's more predictable. You're able to estimate how much space they're going to have. And it's a lot easier at the end of the game when people aren't using the wood and the brick, as you know. They can pull it together and feed someone else the road to kind of counter that a lot easier than taking army from someone. So I'm more actually scared. I think instead of road player, I'd say person who's getting like a great expansion spot. So I always think like the best way to start, or the best way to measure who's going to do well in the game is who has the most impactful first settlement spot. So like 9-10-2, you're getting onto a port and the 6-2 or something, some really good like 2 hex expansion spot and a port all right then. That's why it's so impactful. It's like they have elevated their position and that sometimes goes under the radar. And so I like to check that a lot and make sure like, oh man, they really, it's like having another city basically. And more numbers, and now they're really set up and they have what they need. Now they're good to really build up and buy development cards, whatever. That's probably what I'm most scared of. And so I probably block them from getting it as fast as I can. Hey, A-Rod. Yeah, Justin. Spoiler. Cities and Knights will be coming as like an entertainment kind of specific tournament league. So tournament champions, I don't know if you watch for the base, but basically we had, I think, 20 players. This Cities and Knights will probably be a little less just because there's so many repeat champions. But basically wanting to stream every single one of the games, higher production quality, really cool trailers, epic teasers and hype videos like we did for base, and then a really cool trophy. You can see this, right? This one's broken. I just have to make it for Bucksass because he won. But we'll send out a cool trophy and some merch and stuff. So good question, Griffin, by the way. I probably didn't answer it how you wanted me to, but my meta is always, I'll say this before I jump, but my meta is always, how can I transform my setup to where we get to the end game and it is a dev machine and it's just so flexible to build up and buy development cards. So even if I have a lot of wood and brick, I'm looking to get to that 3-for-1 port or the specialized married ports or whatever, just so I know later in the game I can turn that to dev. So a lot of people do that. So I'm never really thinking, how can I use the wood and brick to maintain this longest road? And that's probably to a huge fault. You know, that's a bias I have against longest road because I've been scarred so many times with people taking that from me at the end of the game that I'm like, forget it. I'll make it work, you know, this other way of just being a dev machine. And now I have like more power in my hands to do a bunch of different things come the end game. Yes, A-Rod. Yeah, for those of you who don't currently play in the league, please come play. If you win one of the seasons, you're going to be invited to these bigger events. If not, you can also just join some of the smaller events like the 1v1 World Cup that we have going right now. Oh, oops. Here's the names. That's it. That's all I had for y'all. I think it's a really cool, interesting idea. You know, it's not just like placing or something that you see a lot. It's taking a next step on how you can work the other players on the table into getting favorable trades for yourself and making sure that other people don't get unbalanced trades at the same time. So yeah, I mean, you're always pretty, or me personally, I'm always pretty aggravated when the block doesn't go right. You know, like, oh man, it's so rational to block somewhere else, or that trade should have gone through. Like, think about it. It's like, the reason those happens are because of things like this. And so recognize it, call it out, you know, be able to see whenever it's happening to yourself and other people. And you can basically make sure that it's the most rational set of players at the table. And then you're like, all right, let me just play my cards and I can win this thing. Which I think is really interesting. I don't know if y'all did or not, but I enjoyed it.